Well, g'day, g'day fans, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Nerdin with the Dags. Welcome back. I haven't been here for months, if not most of the year. How are we all? It's a very, very exciting time. I did not want to be here tonight by myself, but it just turns out that's how things have transpired, and I'll explain what's going on in a minute. So first things first. So thanks for joining me. For those who are joining me, and I've got to say, with the absolutely terrible weather we've got going on outside, it's absolutely bucketing down with the rain, and it's freezing cold. It's the coldest December in the entire history of Australia. Where else would you rather be on a Wednesday night except wasting time with me? And wasting time is exactly what it's all about. Absolutely fantastic. So I've got to say, I'm going solo tonight, and I'll explain why in a tick. And I do appreciate the fact that all these people are turning up. Where's the other fella? Yes, the cool dude of the show. Yes, that is a very good question, Mr. Greg King. I'm going to explain in un momento. But it's kind of funny because I actually did for Nerdin with the Dagses, for those who didn't know this, way back in January of this year, because it was like, I had 4 weeks to spare. I just put these shows together, and I had time to plan for them, time to put them together, time to work out what I was doing. Absolutely fantastic. But this time around, I had only a handful of hours. And the reason is, now you might be asking yourself, it's a Wednesday night, right? Typically, it's a rip it off the card night, right? Now, we weren't on last week because we said, stuff the lottie. We couldn't be doing anything. Seriously. There was actually something else on. We couldn't actually do it. And we got around to this week. And of course, we couldn't postpone the show again for a second time. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, as was asked, where's the other dude? So typically, this is for people who are watching this in replay. I've got no idea. There are two hosts. Myself and Aaron. Well, believe it or not, Aaron today has had a slight change of complexion. So instead of looking like that in the show, he now looks like this. He's got the COVID. He's got the bug. And of course, I find out today from him that he can't do tonight. So I thought, what do? I've had to just put a show together by myself in a complete rush. And I thought, well, what am I going to do? But anyway, we'll cross those bridges as we get along with it. Now, if you're wondering how Aaron's feeling at the moment, he's feeling a little bit like he's just come out of Alien with a face hugger on his noggin. Or you could say he's like a dude with the thing inside him. But ultimately, he's just doing the coma thing. He's just sitting back at home, slacking off is the best way I can describe it. So there you go. So for that reason, you're stuck with me. So it'll be a waste of an evening. What can I say? Very, very cool. No, Aaron, no, he should be. I hope he's ready for Saturday evening. And everybody who's going to the Saturday dinner should at least been advised of what their details are for that dinner. So if you haven't screamed out, Jeff, there can only be one. I'll tell you what, absolutely fantastic. So today, when he said he wasn't coming around again, I thought, as I said earlier, I don't want to just not have a second show for 2 weeks in a row. That's a bit too much. Because next week is our last episode, assuming we ever get to a last episode at this rate. And I thought, well, I'm going to do something. What am I going to talk about? And honestly, I had absolutely no idea. I had nothing, zero, like goose eggs, right? And I thought, well, I can't just turn up here and just waffle on and have you guys just watch this rubbish. And especially people who are watching this in replay, if anybody ever does watch this in replay, you'd like to think there's something. Christy, I like this. Aaron is a play carrier. He is. This is the second time he's got it too, by the way. So for those who aren't aware, he runs his store, Aaron's Collectibles, and on Saturday we were working together. And of course, he didn't turn up the slack shit. He just contacted. I tried to ring him for something. Nut phone's going through the fresh air. And it turns out, I've got the bug, mate. I'm alienated. I've got germs. So I had to run the show by myself. So, and I thought a few days later he'd be back on his feet, but he is not. Anyway, here I am, and here you are joining with me. Absolutely fantastic. Now, you are probably wondering, I like that. The Apprentice has knocked off the master. I'll tell you what, that's a big-ass master I've got to knock off. So, very, very, very good. I don't think even as an apprentice I could do that. The guys is way too cool. What can I say? Very, very good. Like it, Mark. COVID, a magnet, a challenger. Yes, absolutely right. I was surprised when he got it the second time, and he's quite knocked out, the poor lad. As you can see, he hasn't even joined me tonight. You think him in his deathbed, he would have just signed in and go, just see how Dags is doing on his own. He's just, get stuffed, Dags. I'm staying at home. He's probably sleeping right through it. Anyway, there is actually a topic for tonight, believe it or not. I just invented this today because I thought, what else am I going to do? And one of the previous Nerd with Dags episodes, We discussed movies from the 80s, and then we discussed the sci-fi movies of the 50s and 60s and all that sort of stuff. So I thought, well, how about we look at something completely different, right? And it's great sci-fi films from 2000 to 2020. So it's 20 years worth, right, effectively. I thought, well, that's pretty groovy. All right, now this is obviously, I'm encouraging whoever's watching this to give their thoughts and views and opinions on what they see coming up. Now, to be fair, I'm not an expert in a lot of movies of the past 20 years. I like them, I watch them, but I'm not like really like dialed into them in terms of knowing all the facts and the figures and all the trivia that a lot of people would know. So hopefully you guys can kind of help me out there. And don't forget, of course, we're not doing like a big countdown from the greatest and the worst. I've just picked out 20 years worth of films, some good. It could be a bit facetious, some not so good, because you might be asking yourself, what would you kick off in the year 2000? Now, some people are really dialed into what happened in the year 2000 sci-fi film-wise, and I thought, mate, I've got to start with the best. Absolutely top of the range. One of the greatest movies ever made in the entire universe, and of course, it had to be good old Battlefield. Does everybody remember when this movie came out? Hey, back in 2000, good old John Travolta playing Turl. Being a bit, calling it a bit of rubbish is probably not far from the truth. But depending on your perspective, you can look at it in a certain way and go, oh, yeah, it wasn't all bad. You know what it's like when you hear of a movie that comes out and you go, oh, my God, that's complete rubbish. You see yourself and you go, actually, it wasn't too bad after all. Good old Battlefield Earth. I've started off with a bit of a joke, obviously, because it wasn't a great movie. But obviously based on the book from L. Ron Hubbard. What does everybody think? What does everybody remember from good old Battlefield Earth? The thing that I didn't like is the fact that John Travolta played Turl, because I thought Turl was supposed to be an alien, the Cyclos, if I recall. So I'm trying to think of all this trivia shit. Now I'm going to bring it all up to the forefront now. And it just didn't work. I mean, you needed an alien playing an alien. You can't have a human just with extra fingers and a bit of extra height and all the rest of it, trying to make it convincing. That clearly was not going to cut the mustard. And and as you can see, as it only went downhill from there. Exactly right. So, and it was quite disappointing. And the thing I found farcical more than anything else. And so, if you know the story, I think Johnny Goodboy Tyler, so you've got to remember that now, and he's like natives. They discover a cabin full of airplanes, like jet fighters that have been like unused for 20,000 years. Of course, in real life, no dude can just fly a jet fighter, but these guys, they get on a simulator and they go, yep, we're all good to go. They just jump in and fly off and away they are. Jesus Christ. Might have worked in the books, but it certainly did not work in the movies. And as a result, it was a massive disappointment. I think everybody sort of distanced themselves from it, regardless of whether you liked the book or not. It was definitely not the best way to go. Guys mentioned about District 9, recent sci-fi movies, which is particularly cool. And we'll be discussing that a bit later on, actually, which is kind of groovy. William has said he's never watched or intend to watch Avatar. Oh, that's fair enough. Each to their own. I mean, as it is, Avatar is about to have its after a decade of waiting. The sequel comes out next week, I think it is. So make of that what you will. Very, very good. There were no Battlefield Earth Happy Meal toys. No, I think merchandising was almost non-existent for that movie, actually. I don't think they did anything for it. So wasn't to be. Anyway, it didn't kick the decade off on a high. I mean, there were a lot of movies. When I was doing some research, I thought I can only pick one movie per year. And there's an example where I cheated and put two in for 1 year. But for the most part, there's a lot of good stuff. A lot of people think, oh, the best movies, and I've said this, came from the late 70s, all through the 80s, all through the 90s. And that's true. But there's a lot of really good stuff that came out in the 21st century. And some of it was like, yeah, I remember watching that stuff thinking that is pretty damn good. So we move on to 2001. And now this movie I did love. I really enjoyed it. It was setting a trend for the future that kind of didn't happen, although now, these days, it's more common than it used to be. And of course, that was Final Fantasy, The Spirits Within. All CG movie when they were trying really hard to do the whole it's like the digital facial, making people look like actual people. And they got pretty damn close, I've got to say. I looked at it as saying that when you saw an organic character, they look CG, like we can see there with Aki, and I can't think of the guy's name. But when you saw environmental scenes, they looked fantastic. They really did look very, very groovy. And the downside to Final Fantasy, of course, was it was based on the game. And the game was obviously like Japanese orientated. So had it just been a straight shoot 'em up movie, bad guys versus good guys, it probably would have been very successful. But of course, in the story, they're dealing with the Gaia, the thing of the earth, and the ghosts and the spirits. And I think a lot of Western audiences will say, what? Just shoot some shit, guys. And of course, they didn't do that. So, but I absolutely loved it. I thought it was fantastic. There's a lot going for it. some beautiful visuals. And yeah, the Uncanny Valley was starting to make its appearance here because they really did push the envelope in the film. And as a result, it actually bankrupted the studio that made it. They just died in the ass. It just died a death. But for those of us who still remember it, will love it really with great passion. Jeff Rose said he absolutely loves this movie. I do too. It's awesome. And of course, a lot of it was made by Japanese studios, and you got the main character Aki, the lady, right? And believe it or not, I don't know why they did this, right? But in terms of some of the designs they did for Aki, and Chrissy's not going to be happy when she hears this, they did her in like bathing suits and all this sort of stuff. And you go, what the freaking test shots, right? You go, what the hell? What are you guys drinking? What the hell is the deal with that? So anyway, but it was a good film for those of us who remember it. Our guy loved it as well, which is kind of cool. Firefly was a great sequel to actually Serenity was the sequel to the show Firefly. Yes, it was actually, and I only saw Serenity not that long ago, about a couple of years back actually, for the first time. It was a bit of a big hit for a TV series that kind of died in the ass, which was unfortunate. I mean, there were stories saying that they're going to try and revitalize Firefly and renew it and all that, and go, why don't you just keep the original going 20 years ago like you should have, instead of cancelling it and then saying, oh, maybe we should bring it back. Unbelievable. Kelvin's mentioned Titan AE. Didn't see that one myself personally, so very, very cool. Yes, very good. Ads has mentioned about Battlefield Earth. Yes, converting a caveman to a fighter pilot in 5 minutes. It's just totally unbelievable, but that's what happens. So very, very cool. Good stuff. Hang on. Other way around, what you think about the Firefly? No, Firefly was first, Serenity was second, right? That much I do know, right? I don't know much about the series, but yeah, Firefly was the TV series, Serenity was the movie, which was, I think, Firefly was a great sequel. Sorry, you're responding to William. Yeah, sorry. All good. All right. So a lot of these things I've seen, a lot of people would have seen them too. You might have even forgotten about them, but some of them come up and you go, oh, mate, that is just pushing all these buttons. Now, this one I've only saw once or twice, but it was revolutionary when it first came out. Now, push all aside all the thing with the actors and all the rest of it, those you like, those you don't like. Just look at the art. And, of course, it was Minority Report. And of course, the cool thing with this particular thing, which I think it was based on an original story from somebody way back when, is predicting the future. And of course, in this, they're predicting the future of crimes that are going to occur. And I guess one of the more funkier moments is the fact that he's using the computer screens with his hands on the screen, and he's doing it's like a ballet with your fingers, right? He's moving all the screens around, he's pressing this and pressing that, which of course does not exist in real life. And I thought about it afterwards. And anybody who works in IT with keyboards and mice and whatever else, you could argue that having stuff on the screen in front of you is great for your eyesight and great for your neck because you don't have to look down. But doing this with your hands all the time, you're going to get sore arms because you're not feeling any resistance. Normally, if you're holding something there's resistance, you can press it and relax on it. But if you're just holding your arms in fresh air, doing all this business, after a period of time, you probably find, just give me a mouse. But it did look good. There's no denying that. And yeah, so I think Minority Report was actually a really good film. I do need to see it again. It's been quite a while. I think it's on one of the streaming services. And it was particularly groovy, predicting the future of something that hasn't happened yet. And, of course, I think Tom Cruise's character sees that he's going to commit a crime, thinking it's something bad, and it turns out it's not the case at all. So, yes, very good. So you need to go and check that out. And, of course, there's a great sequence when he has to change his eyes, for those who remember it, right? Because they do everything with the eyes. They get scan the eyes. That's like determining how a person works. And, of course, this was predicting the future of what we have today, where you get emails and you get notifications on social media addressed to you personally. So you buy a bottle of milk from Coles online, and then all of a sudden another message will come through from somewhere else saying, hey, Fred, you bought a bottle of milk there. Why don't you buy some chocolate quick over here? And, of course, it's all personalised to you, which, of course, Minority Report, I think, sort of like emphasised because he's walking through the airport and, of course, picking up the eyes of the different person. Yeah, I thought it was kind of groovy. So good stuff. The sick puppy's decided to join me. There you go. Gets out of his deathbed to sort of like support the Dags. Yeah, good on you. Well done. So there you go. Love him or hate him, Tom does some awesome sci-fi. He's done a lot, actually. Yes, at least 5 films, I think, all sci-fi related, which is very groovy because a lot of actors, they just do 1 or 2 and they go, nah, that's it, I'm moving on. Absolutely awesome. Very, very good. Okay. And you are 3 for 3 movies that I haven't seen to this day. Will you not have seen all 20? That is a question there, Christy. You've got to ask yourself. We might absolutely be on a winner. You never know. What? computer wax on then wax off. Actually, I just watched fifth season of Cobra Kai yesterday. There you go, wax on. That's exactly what it was. It is very, very cool, very groovy. Love it. Guys mentioned Evolution with David Duchovny. Saw it once and once only. If I recall, there was the happy face with the three eyes, but that's going way back. A lot of them you sort of see and forget really quickly. Aaron and I discussed that we call it disposable movies or disposable films these days. They come in, they go really quickly, and they just don't sit with your memory for a long period of time, which is very sad. So good stuff. Very good. The Vile is asking, aren't you dead yet? Yeah, Aaron, yes, exactly right. Maybe you need to go out there and violating Mr. Vile. What can I say? Very, very cool. People are watching this on replay are wondering, rip it off the card. Why is it just one turkey talking instead of two turkeys? Gobble, gobble, gobble. All right, now this one came out. Okay, now to be fair, when you're standing on the shoulders of giants, it's a big ask, right? You got the first movie is a massive success. The second one is absolutely mind-blowing. And you go, all right, you're going to do a third one. It's like it's a big ask to say, how can you top that? And, of course, we're talking about the old T3, Terminator 3, right? It was never going to topple what the success was for Terminator 2. But they gave it a go. Right. And I'm not saying this is the best film of 2003 or the worst. It's just a movie that I picked out. And I thought, oh, okay, give them points for trying. Right. And of course, now Terminators can do all sorts of weird shit. They actually act like people and they move around and they do shit and weird shit. Back in the days when it was just like the T-800 or the Cyberdyne Systems 101 where they were just robots, that's all out the window. Now they're all moving and grooving and doing all sorts of weird shit. It wasn't all bad. To be fair, I mean, it wasn't the greatest thing in the entire universe, but, after T2, it was like, oh, yes. But you could argue that the movies that came after this, not necessarily Salvation, because I like Salvation, but Genesis and Dark Fate, they were utter rubbish, right? So at least with Terminator 3, they gave it a go to fit into the continuity. Kind of worked, kind of didn't. So anyway, it's a shame because I think John Connor features in this film, and it's a shame they just couldn't get the actor from Terminator 2, whose name's just gone straight out of my head, and just get him to play the character. It would have probably worked, but yes. Went from bad to worse. Well, yeah, unfortunately, it did for a lot of people, so good stuff. I like it. The dead card is approaching it. Bring out your dead. and Tennille can carry him out going, here's one I prepared earlier, so absolutely magnificent. Disposable movies, also known as a crap movie. Well, yeah, it's definitely a bit like that sometimes, so it can happen. So sometimes it's T3, I think, is an example where they could have just said, you know what, we'll stop at the second movie. It is so good, we have to wait a decade or 2 decades. Don't try and cash in on a sequel. It's just not going to work. And a lot of film, we've discussed this in different episodes of these shows. There are some shows, some studios are going, nah, we just want the money. We don't give a shit if it's crap or not. Just pump it out there. People go and see it no matter what. And, of course, we saw that time and time again with the Superman franchise and Aliens and Matrix. And anyway, thank you. Eddie Furlong. Yep, absolutely fantastic. He was John Connor in Terminator 2. Very, very good. What's this? Thousands of Arnie Terminators and Terminatrix. Yeah, righto. Bet she was a popular unit at parties. They did try and explain what the deal was because there was a combination of saying Cyberdyne Systems 101 and a T-800. So there was a theory that said the Cyberdyne Systems 101 they all look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but T-800 is the endoskeleton. So if you end up with a Cyberdyne Systems T-102, they actually look like somebody else, but the endoskeleton's still the same. That's how it apparently was described. Make of that what you will. All right, now this movie came out. I've never read the book. They don't even know if it even has anything to do with the book. And a lot of people were going, well, you're kind of copying. What the hell's the deal with naming in this movie after the book? But I saw it and I loved it. Forget what happened at the Oscars. I don't want to hear about it, right? And, of course, we're talking about I, Robot. What a freaking awesome movie this was. Absolutely loved it. So for those people out there who remember this particular film when it came out in 2004, bloody hell, the whole thing of robots taking over, mate. That's it. Got the AI who said humanity sucks. Got to get rid of it as usual. It's always the same story, isn't it? And of course, I forgot the name of the company that was manufacturing the robots. And they bring out, of course, the doctor producer Sonny, and Sonny's the sort of the odd one from the group. Love this film. Absolutely, really dialed into it. It's absolutely magnificent. So, what did everybody else think? Surely, Christy, you must have seen I, Robot, even though, strictly speaking, it had nothing to do with the book or books. So, what do you reckon? Absolutely awesome. I've just gone completely blank as to what the company was called. So, Yes, and featured a very, very cool Audi, by the way. If you're into Audis that don't exist, they made a special one for this movie. And of course, the thing had no wheels, so you could actually drive sideways if it needed to. So loved it. I Robot, good sense of action, good sense of drama as well. And it is sort of leads into that question of when you produce robots. Now, of course, they have to use robot, right? And of course, in our society, a robot is a machine that looks nothing like a person, right? It's like you see on a manufacturing production line, on a production line doing its thing. When you produce it looking like a person, it's technically classed as an android or something similar, even though there's some blurry lines there. So we wouldn't call these things robots, but for the sake of the argument, they did. And it is that whole thing of saying, okay, when does technology become too advanced? Okay, because if you remember in the sequence of the robots are all walking the dogs and they're delivering parcels and all the rest of it, and there's that discussion about human beings losing their jobs because the robots are more efficient at producing products and whatever else. I really liked it. It sort of worked for me. So it was a bit of a message in there for the future. And of course, what happens when a robot commits a crime? When you clearly, with the 3 laws of robotics from Isaac Asimov, they can't commit crimes. What happens then? All right. No, read the book and didn't want to spoil it by saying that. That's fair enough too. It's I don't know why they chose the name iRobot. It just seemed unusual to do that. I mean, Battlefield Earth was at least based on the book, but iRobot clearly wasn't. And I don't get that either. So my iRobot vacuums the floor. Yeah, so that looks like a robot and it does its thing. So, but you wouldn't be surprised if it's somehow predicting the future. Not maybe next week, but maybe 20 years from now, 30 years from now. I mean, they're pushing for it, the whole AI thing, and dudes out there, they're really going for it at the moment. And, it's all gimmicky at the moment, but eventually at some point it will happen. And I did like the fact that this film touched on that. The Robot Head Special Edition DVD was one of the better special edition packages. It was. And of course, you had that in the store for a period of time. And it was the Sunny one. It looked absolutely fantastic. And what I did like is that Alan Tudyk played Sunny. And of course, he did the motion capture for that. But he only did Sunny. They used a different actor for all the other robots. That way the movements would be slightly different. I really like that. So, yeah, fantastic. Kelvin has said 28 Days Later was a good movie. Oh, I never saw it. All those 28 days, 28 weeks. I saw 9.5 weeks, but that's a completely different story. Yes. No, I haven't. All right. Now, this one. Right. Now, of course, the director has become a bit of a infamous for a whole lot of reasons. The first half was outstandingly good, and the second half was complete tripe, right? And of course, I'm talking about Michael Bay's version of The Island. I love the first half. I thought it was excellent. They're all underground. They've got these people who are acting, they're adults, but they have the mindset of a child, and you don't know why, but they've done that intentionally. And we discover later on, spoiler alert, that they've been clones of the original person in the event that the original person needs organs or hearts, lungs, and arms and shit like that, right? So in the event that, so if you're the host, right, and you sort of like think, oh, I've got a bit of a kidney problem, which the idea on paper sounds pretty fantastic. I've got a kidney disease, go to my clone, rip it out of the clone, stick it in me, and it's already genetically good to rock and roll. How good is that, right? I thought it was awesome. I really, really did. It worked for me. But once they escaped, Ewan and Scarlett, right, then it became a Michael Bay complete load of shit, right? They're in on bloody bridges and they're blowing shit up and there's like all this crap. I was like, what? 2 totally different movies. But the first half is excellent, right? Because the idea of The Island is that all these people who are trapped in this building, and there's thousands of them, it looks really, really cool. They all think that there's a big competition. And if you get to win a competition to go to the island, you get set free. It's like the greatest thing in the entire universe. And of course, that's not the case at all. You get taken away and they start ripping out your organs and whatever. Brilliant concept. Absolutely loved it. It was just a shame that they did the Michael Bay thing later on. So William said he didn't watch it. It's kind of funny the amount of people who are watching these episodes tonight who've never seen a lot of these movies. That's quite interesting. So, but if I mentioned something from the 80s or the 70s or whatever, your chance are you did to watch it. Another movie based on a book that I didn't watch, Fair Call. I do get it, but I did like it because when I first saw The Island, I didn't know anything about the Michael Bay business. And I thought, oh, dude, this is really push. I'm really dialed into this, right? And you got the big guy who from the Green Mile, I think it was, because in his host is actually a big sports star. And of course, they need to harvest. He's been in a car accident or something. And they need to harvest all these body parts from him. And of course, the clones, they don't treat them like normal people because they're there as a commodity. And I really liked it. And of course, Ewan McGregor, he has, I think, an American accent as the clone, but when he meets himself later on as the host, he's got an English accent, which is his real accent. And it's really interesting. They're both talking to each other, the two actors, which are the same actor, but with different voices. Oh, I thought it was great. Loved it. So, and of course, the hosts don't know that the clones are being treated the way they are. They just think that they're in a form of stasis, which means that whenever they want to rip body parts out there, they don't feel guilty about it. But of course, that is not the case at all. Oh, highly recommended. Once they escape and they sort of get into the city, switch it off. That's my opinion. Very, very cool. Love it. You can take it or leave it. Mostly leave it. Yeah, exactly right. Just take the first half. But yes, very good stuff. Watch Michael Caine's The Island from 1981. That's not the, I'm thinking of The Island of Dr. Moreau. I don't think that's that version, is it? So anyway, all right, now this one, right? This one is up there as awesome. So I went to the cinema to see this. I'd never read the graphic novel, right? We're up to 2006 now. Oh, I didn't realize it was on the screen already. This was absolutely fantastic. V for Vendetta, right? Does everybody remember this when it came out? Sorry, I didn't realize I had it on the screen already. V for Vendetta was absolutely spectacular. And what really worked is the fact that they don't tell you the story at the start. You've got to figure it out as you're going along. The world building, what's happened. So the idea is that, you know, America's been impacted by some kind of a disease or whatever else. And Britain is now the superpower of the world, and it's being ruled by a dictatorship. And it's awesome. And of course, our character V, who's been experimented on for a period of time, because the government, it's the old thing of controlling people. How you do that, you create a virus that you only have the cure to. You make sure it gets out. You say, as the government, that, hey, look how good we are. We can protect everybody. But of course, to create the virus, you've killed a lot of people in the process. Unbelievable, absolutely spectacular. And the best thing about it in V for Vendetta is they don't take the V's mask off, which I thought was great, because in a lot of these movies, they take the mask off. You remember Return of the Jedi with Darth Vader? Mate, no, they leave it on the whole time, which is very, very cool. Yes, awesome, absolutely. And Jeff Rose said he watched it recently, and it was a really well directed, for sure. And and there's a classic quote in the show when, like, there's going to be a massive. So V has said he's sent out all his masks to everybody. He said 1 year later, all meet at this particular square to protest the government, right? And of course, the government's aware of this. They've got all the troops all lined up with all the guns and all the rest, and all these people turn up, all wearing the what is now known as the anonymous masks, because everybody wears these masks at the protests and whatever else. There's thousands of them all turning up. And it's like, it's the old thing. And what happens when people with guns stand up to people without guns? Unbelievable. So, yes, very, very cool and well worth checking out if you've never seen it before. Absolutely stunning. And Natalie Portman plays an English lady in it too. And they actually, like, they shave her head and all the rest of it. And yeah, it's very, very good. There's a little bit of some of it you go, oh, that's kind of stretching the boundaries of believability. But the drama is really, really good and really well done. Very good. You are right. Stephen Fry was excellent. He played a copper in that in V for Vendetta, and he was awesome. Well worth checking out. Once again, shows with good casting. Just, you can't go wrong. A lot of people were complaining about Natalie Portman being in it because being an American, but she convinced everybody that she was English, so she did really, really well. Yes, he wears a mask because he's an alien lizard. Yes, exactly right. And originally, Hugo Weaving wasn't meant to be the main guy who was going to play V. It was going to be another actor. And of course, the other actor said, I can't handle being in the mask all the time. So off he went. Hugo came in, and they were cooking on gas. William said Children of Men is an excellent movie. Sorry, dude. You keep mentioning the movies I haven't seen. So, yes, very, very cool. All right. So, we're going to go slightly off tangent. I've just seen this one once. Okay. And in 2007, there's a lot of stuff that came out. Now, eventually, we're going to get into the area of all the Marvel movies and all this sort of stuff. I haven't picked any of those, right? So if you're hanging out, oh, my God, I can't wait for me to pick Iron Man, or I can't wait for me to pick Ant-Man. Not going to happen. I didn't pick any of those things, right? None of the Star Wars ones, none of the Star Trek ones, none of the Marvel movies, none of the DC, none, zero. Goose eggs, right? I deliberately didn't do it. I said, no, I'm going to go completely one-offs, right? This one came out. Now, Christy definitely won't have seen this if she hasn't seen all the others. And, of course, it was The Mist. Now, slightly a bit of a horror movie, but it's more suspenseful than horror. And the coolest thing about this film is about studying human beings in difficult environments. So you got all these people trapped in a supermarket, and there's a mist outside that's killing them. All right. Now, normally you'd all just stay quiet and you'd all stay calm and it's all good. But what happens when you get one religious zealot in the mix? Right? We're being punished by the devil. It's all you people, you're sinners, and this and that and that and this. And I tell you what, it is fascinating because what it shows you is how one person can make everybody else different. Right? It's an interesting study in human psychology, and absolutely magnificent. Very, very cool. Ads are saying about Natalie Portman, even with a shaved head, damn sexy. I suppose you could say it that way. We just did, actually. So there you go. Guys mentioned about The Mist. So far, you haven't seen it. Look, I'm not surprised. It sort of came and went. They did make a TV series for it. I believe. I like that one. Yeah, Christy missed that one. Yes, I got the gag. Well done. Jeffro said, I missed it. Oh, God. Sick. Yeah, good on you, guys. The joke is fantastic. William has said, at least it's a great movie. So far, I've seen everything mentioned, though I wish I hadn't. Oh, okay. Make it that way, Will. But yeah, so The Mist is really interesting. So it's just a character study with all these people in this particular place. What happens to them? How do they all treat each other? And what occurs? And there's a magnificent twist ending. Even in this case, I'm not even going to tell you what the twist ending is. And don't say the butler did it, because that would be the spoiler alert of the year. And it's fascinating. It's really, really good. But as I said, I never saw it the once, but I really, really liked it. So got to go and check it out. Yes, I like The Mist. There's always a religious nut in these movies. And the funny thing, of course, is they're all turning to this person. I think it's a lady. And they go, mate, you're a complete freaking knob. Shut your cake hole. And, of course, later on, she converts everybody else into thinking the way she thinks. And our hero, who's trying to save the day, ends up being ostracized by the rest of the group. Oh, absolutely magnificent. Like it. Yeah, yes, exactly right. It was something you did not see coming from a mile away. So, very good. I think you're supposed to say the ending there was a dance-off, not a dace-off. Make of that what you will. Oh, yeah, dance-off. Very, very cool. And it's based on a Stephen King story. It is indeed. Love it. So we're not doing too bad so far, are we? Almost through the first of our 10 years. How good is it? All right, now, every once in a while, I'm going to say this a few times, you come across a movie and you go, oh, my God, OMG, right? I had an OMG moment. Now, I actually saw this at Ads' place, if I recall. No, hang on. No, I didn't. Or maybe I did. I can't remember now. A long time ago. And I saw this and it blew my mind, right? And not very often that you get caught out and you go, oh, it was spectacular. But you could not watch it in the cinema. I didn't see it in the cinema. I saw it on video or whatever, because you would lose your lunch. Not because it was gruesome or gross or anything like that, because of the way it was photographed. It was all handy cam found footage stuff. And, of course, we're talking about Cloverfield. What a friggin' grouse film. And the reason why it pushed my buttons, right, and I mean button pushing to the max, is because I did not know who any of the cast were. So to me, I believed who they were, right? It's not like you see a movie and you go, oh, that's just Fred playing a different character from another movie, whatever. Completely sucked me in. And of course, Cloverfield starts off with a relationship story between a couple of the younger people. And I got so sucked into that story that when they're eventually sitting on the balcony in New York City of some apartment and these guys are talking about this dude's relationship with this girl, completely forgot what the thing was about, and suddenly an explosion takes place off in the distance, and you go, oh, shit, that's right. This is actually meant to be a sci-fi movie, and it is fantastic. It's so well done, but it's all found footage stuff, so the camera's jumping around everywhere, and a lot of people did get a bit sick in the cinemas. Luckily, I didn't see it there, but it is beautiful. It's a magnificent film to watch, and because I believed it, it's like, what would happen in real life if this thing was to occur, and what they show is just that, and the people involved are just normal dudes, right? Simple, normal dudes in the wrong place at the wrong time. Outstandingly good. And I never saw the sequels. I know there's 10 Cloverfield Lane and there's another one, but that was magnificent. And of course, early on when that explosion took place, what it was the Statue of Liberty's head getting blown off, and it rolls down the street to where our heroes are, right? And of course, that was the inspiration for the poster of Escape from New York. And of course, everybody brings out the phones and the cameras and they're all filming it all. Magnificent. Good stuff. Yes. You're a freaking idiot. He was listening to the radio. His radio had an OMD moment. Orchestral maneuvers in the dark. Yes, very, very good. Ads to say, yeah, I think I was at your place where I saw Cloverfield. Very, very good. Was more of an experience than being more real. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was really interesting to see, how do these people deal with this situation when they are just normal people? And of course, it doesn't end well. That's the key thing about it. Kelvin said you felt ill. Yeah, I'm surprised. Yeah, on a big screen you would lose. It's a bit like Blair Witch Project and that. The found footage thing is great, but it had to be that way. That's just how the story worked. Yes, I love the ending. We lose. That's exactly right. And for those who know the movie really well, there's a sequence when because the original camera footage is the couple together, then it gets overwiped with the Cloverfield stuff, right? But at the end of the movie, they go back to being the original footage of the couple being on a Ferris wheel in New York, right? And they're saying, "Oh, we love each other. It's all great and wonderful." And in the background, you actually see something land in the water, right? It's very subtle, okay? And that's part of the alien thing with the alien in Cloverfield, who I've got to say was effing scary. They just could not kill it no matter what they did. Oh, and you got scary aliens, but this one really was awesome. So if you haven't seen Cloverfield, check it out. Don't see it in the cinema though. Guy said, "Going to have to watch this. Sounds good." Oh, it was magnificent because there are some movies that emulate what happens in real life. What happens when this happens, and what happened is exactly what people would do, right? They would all freak out. They go, "What happens? We get the cameras out." You see it today, even with the disasters. The first, instead of people running away, they get their phones out, filming it all. Probably think and stick it on YouTube. Will get 50,000 billion likes. Some people actually die in the process of doing stupid stuff like that when they're filming what do you call it? Volcano lava flows and crap. Oh, this is awesome! Look at this! I'm going to get 50 million subscribers, and they just get carked because the thing killed them. And then, of course, you've got to evacuate the city. You just follow what the people are telling you. But what happens is if the alien isn't just going to play nicely and decides to attack everybody. Oh, I could talk about it all night long. Very, very good. That was a Joss Whedon movie, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, grouse. Yes, 10 Cloverfield Lane. That's right, because there are 2 sequels, and I just never got around to watching it. But very, very good. Just a short break. Watch this. Sounds good. All right. Now, this one was mentioned earlier. And of course, this one came out of absolute left field, right? If you have seen this, it is probably one of the best of the sci-fi movies of the 10 years when it was produced. It really set the world on fire for a whole lot of reasons and had a very interesting sort of concept behind it. And of course, it was discussed earlier. We're talking about District 9. Now, the irony thing about District 9, it was never meant to be made. So the original director, the guy who was going to make it, was originally meant to do a Halo movie, which Peter Jackson was going to produce, but that all fell to the complete cakehole. And the guy said, "But you still owe me a movie." So they said, "All right, well, how about you do this one instead, District 9. Now, the thing about District 9 is that it's not set in America, it's set in South Africa, right? So an alien ship appears over Johannesburg. Yes, Johannesburg, right? Full of all these alien dudes. And of course, here on Earth, we've got to try and put them somewhere. And it's to do with the whole thing of racial stereotyping in an environment where there used to be racial stereotyping. So, of course, with the apartheid history that South Africa had between the blacks and the whites, what happens when the blacks and the whites get together and they then hate the aliens? That's how the story works. And, of course, what made it an absolute winner chicken dinner for everybody is it starts out as a documentary, right? And you believe it's an actual documentary that's happening, and then later on it turns into the more typical narrative of an action movie. But it was really good, very violent. There was some really nasty stuff in it, but it really made you think. And even in the documentary segment, the lady said, "You would have thought this thing would have landed over Los Angeles and New York, but it ends up landing over Johannesburg." And of course, they've got millions of all these alien dudes, which they call prawns, the derogatory term prawns. Where are they going to put them? And for those who have seen District 9, I think everybody would have to say it's just ingenious, absolutely ingenious. And of course, the aliens have all this weaponry that it doesn't work with human beings at all. And there's all this black market shit going on between all the different gangs and the groups. Absolutely, yeah, loved it. Totally agree with you. And I agree with you, Ads. Left field films are the best, and it is very much like that because when you're seeing it as like a documentary, you actually think it's happening for real. You think it's true. And of course, it was all inspired by a real life scenario in South Africa where they had all the Africans, the black Africans, they all had to be moved from one ghetto to another ghetto. And there's a whole saga. This is 20 years ago. There was a whole saga about how they had to try and move all these people from one place to another place. And of course, it didn't go down very, very well. So they just adapted the story with aliens instead of humans. And it is interesting to see both white people and black people saying, "We hate the aliens, piss them off." I go, isn't that interesting? So very, very cool. Lots of splatter weapons. Yes, there was. When those prawn guns go off, they leave a mess. And of course, because the weapons don't work with humans, the corporations at MNU, Multinational United, are experimenting, doing genetic experiments on the alien, and it's not good. It doesn't end well. It had so much to digest. It did, but it had a good story to it, and it does come down to if aliens did, like we saw this in Alien Nation, right? So the movie, well, the TV series Alien Nation had the newcomers arrive on Earth. The ship has arrived. They put them on Earth. What are you going to do with them? They've got to integrate into society. What happens if they don't integrate properly? What happens? And then you end up with segments of them, ghettos of them, gangs, all that sort of thing. And District 9, to a large degree, is similar to that. And of course, we see it initially from the point of view of the Afrikaan people. So Wickes is the main character. And he's like, mate, they're just prawns. Who gives a shit about them? And of course, that's a key thing, because later on, he gets more invested with the prawns than he was planning to initially. So was it an awesome movie? The politics behind the movie really moved me. Orphan aliens are typical government tyranny. Well, that's exactly right. And of course, from a budgetary perspective, the government's got to say, well, how do we finance these dudes? Oh, mate, you're stuck with them, right? And they're just stuck in Johannesburg. It's really good. It'll make you think. It's a good thinking person's movie. What can I say? Yes, the realization of the aliens that they're being experimented on. Well, exactly right. And yes, that would happen in real life. So, yes. Love it. Chuck another prawn on the barmy. Yes, exactly right. All right. Once again, awesome movies, right? Oh, I love it. Some really good shit. Right. Hopefully people have been watching this. This one, sequel to a movie that came out in the 80s. Okay. High hopes that it was going to be an absolute winner. And sure enough, it was absolutely outstanding. And of course, we're talking about the old Tron Legacy. What a freaking grouse movie this was. So the key thing about it, it was done in 3D. And only the first half is in 3D, or the first quarter. So the sign at the start of the movie says, put your 3D glasses on. All right. You go in, all you're watching is the contemporary on-Earth stuff, right? Not in 3D at all. It's just normal 2D, right? When they get into the digital realm, which is the realm on the right, bang, the 3D hits, and it is awesome. It looks so damn good. And Tron Legacy was an outstandingly good movie, even though, ironically, the character of Tron is barely in it. So it looked good. It sounded good. It had a lot of really good stuff going with it. And, of course, it was really introducing that whole thing of producing digital actors. So, Clue, which is Jeff Bridges, right? He was a digital actor. Now, I wasn't 100% sure at the time. I thought they tried to de-age Jeff Bridges or whatever, but I believe it's all digital now, which, funny, being in a digital world, you can kind of get away with. But the thing is, it was just spectacular to look at. It really, really did well. And so it was a massive enhancement on the original film and modernized itself really, really well. Absolutely loved it. Anne just said Tron Legacy is one of my faves. It's grouse. You have the whole light cycle sequence, which, unlike the first movie, which is all set on one level, on this one it's on multiple levels. I thought that's grouse. So you actually got the beam, the wall that comes behind the bike, but it's on up. You can drive on the roof and go on the sides and all. Different levels, magnificent. So yes. Forgot about Tron Legacy and the awesome sequel. It was spectacular. The only thing I couldn't understand, and I'd have discussed this with people, is in the sequence when you got Flynn and Kira and Jeff Bridges' character, whose name I've just completely forgotten. It's not Clue. It's the other version. Flynn, Durfred. They're sitting in his apartment with this big ass apartment that it's this huge, big open area, which looks like straight out of Stanley Kubrick's movies. And they got on the dinner table a friggin' pig with an apple in its mouth, like a cooked one. I go, what is the deal with that? No, I got to admit, that's the only thing I didn't like about that. That made no sense as to why that was there. But and of course, put that aside, music from Daft Punk, and of course, if you wanted to hang out anywhere, the end of line bar. Oh, you got to go there, check it out. And everything looked good. The recognizers looked awesome. Oh, it was just fantastic. So, absolutely loved it as a sequel. But as I said, Tron himself didn't really appear much. So, good stuff. Fantastic. Good question. Need to watch it again. Anyone know if it's on a streaming service? I don't know, but you'd want to watch it in 3D. I mean, 2D kind of would be okay, but 3D was just magnificent. And even Daniel said Tron Legacy is fantastic. It is a cool thing when you get a sequel to a movie that's made decades after the original and it works. Now, ironically, one of the films that follows exactly the same thing. The first movie was both made in 1982, so Tron was in 82, and Blade Runner was in 82. So Tron Legacy is the sequel to Tron, and of course Blade Runner 2049 was a sequel to Blade Runner. You could certainly argue that Tron Legacy is a better sequel than Blade Runner 2049. So surely it would be on Disney Plus. Don't know, not entirely sure. But if you do get a chance to see it in 3D, you've got to do so. It is magnificent. All right, now I'm going to cheat. All right, my show, I'm allowed to cheat. Aaron's not here to annoy the crap out of me because he's like as sick as a dog with COVID, the scurvy dog. Should have just taken one for the team and just made his appearance here. Now, 2011. I've picked two movies from 2011, right? Because I thought I couldn't split them, and they're totally polar opposite different, right? So I said, stuff it, I'm having two of them, right? So the first one, it took me, it's okay. So Tron Legacy is definitely on Disney Plus. Well, there you go. You can go and check it out. Tron wasn't in it, but Rinsler was. Tron was in it, but he was only in it right towards the end. Rinsler was the main dude, if I recall correctly. So 2011 comes around, and this one came out. It took me ages to see this, and I thought, I can see why this would be a massive hit. Because we're talking the movie Paul. Simon Pegg and Dick Frost get together, find an alien, right, when they're herbing around the US. And the fact that they're English works. If it was an American couple finding an alien, it just wouldn't be the same. It's the fact that these guys are British, right? It's freaking grouse. They're in a Winnebago, and they come across Paul, who's a bit of a smart-ass alien. Absolutely ingenious. It was really, really, really clever. It was a lot of fun. And, of course, it deliberately left you in, put you on tangents that you thought, the bad guy's the bad guy. And it turns out the bad guy's not the bad guy at all. The bad guy's actually trying to help Paul, but we don't know that. And it was just an awesome bit of fun. And I love the sequence when they're at the convention, right? The Sci-Fi convention. And I think, mate, that looks exactly like a standard pop culture expo. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And with all the characters running around, and you get you meet your heroes. I think it's the artist, the book artist, or the comic book artist. He's got a bit of an attitude problem. How often does that happen in real life? You get a signature from oh my God, I'm one of your biggest fans. I've already got to move on. I loved it. That's why I think if it worked because of the two guys, right? Yes, awesome movie. It was awesome. It was very, very cool. Very, very clever. And I love the fact there's a sequence when Paul is on the phone. It's like a flashback. He's talking to Steven Spielberg. I think it's about E.T. or Close Encounters or something. He invented the microwave and he did this and did that. Love it. Very, very cool. He's got Paul on DVD and Laugh So Hard. Yes, very, very cool. Yes, Rinsler was Tron. Yeah, I haven't seen Tron Legacy for a long time. Yeah, and so you're probably right on that one. Yeah, it's a bit hard not to like this. It was good fun. And, of course, there's a sequence and he's in the story because he can't be sprung. He's dressed in a cowboy hat or whatever, and he's just standing still, right? And you got the Men in Black kind of dude comes up and tries to feel his gangoolies. And he's trying to keep a straight face because he can't pretend that he can't show that he's a real life alien. So I'm laughing now just thinking about it. Absolutely loved it. So, yes, if you haven't had a chance to see Paul, you've got to do it. So, yes, good fun. But, yes, the guys in the end become mega famous writers, and everybody's happy at the end. Daniel said part of it was filmed at the San Diego Comic-Con. Yep, that makes sense. Why replicate a convention when you can actually go to a real one? All right. This is part 2 of 2011, right? As I said, I couldn't split them. This one, I bet Christy hasn't seen this one. She might not have seen Paul, but she definitely wouldn't have seen this. I remember when this came out, and I go, oh, mate, can't wait to check this out. And, of course, it's the Thing, the 2011 version, which, of course, is the prequel to the 1982 version, right? And it's clearly not as famous or as successful as the John Carpenter 82 version, but I really liked it. It really worked for me. So it's very clever because in the original version of The Thing, they go to the Norwegian base, right, which has been decimated by the Thing. Well, this is the film that describes what happens at the Norwegian base when the Thing first turns up. And to be fair, it's modernized a little bit, and it's even though it's set in the same year. It's good. It's really good. And now the Thing character is completely different to how it appears in the 82 version. In this, it's a lot more aggressive, and it's just running around just doing shit, right? Because clearly it's just landed. They've got it. They've thought it out, and away we go. And the production team were really pedantic about building the sets of the Norwegian base, Thule base, I think it was called, exactly as it appeared in the 82 version, and putting all the weapons and things in the walls as they appeared in that movie. So there's a bit where there's an axe stuck on the door in the 82 version. In this, you get to see the axe into the door. I loved it. I thought it was good, even though the thing itself was slightly CG and whatever else. And it was really cool. And so if you haven't seen it, and if you're a bit of a fan of the thing, check it out. Have a bit of a look-see. It is a prequel, and the movie ends with the dog running off, which is the start of the 82 version. I thought that was very, very clever. So very, very good. Christy will let me know when she's seen something. Okay, very, very good. So we're batting pretty badly at the moment. Is that right there, Christy? So fair enough. William said he liked the prequel too. It is. It's actually very, very clever. So when it was first mentioned, the thing, people thought, why are they remaking the 82 version? And of course, they didn't remake it as the prequel to the 82. And the people were very pedantic about making it match in with the original movie. And I loved it. First movie I haven't seen. Okay, well, that's fair enough, as in like the thing. So, yes, and I like the fact they kept the same name and everything. It all works. So you could actually get the two movies, the 2011 version and the 82 version, stick them together, just remove the credits, and you'd never know that they were two different movies. Maybe the visual effects would give it away, but love it. Gregor said, absolutely love both Thing movies. Yes, very, very cool. The best thing about the thing was Elizabeth Winstead. Yeah, she was really cool. And of course, you got the dude who plays Deeks from NCIS LA. It's like he's just walked off that set straight into this movie. If anybody was slightly out of place, it was him. Because you're going, mate, that looks exactly like Deeks. And it's because he's filmed it at the same time. And the Norwegian actors are Norwegian actors. So none of the old thing of like, we'll just get Americans and put on a Norwegian accent. It's all good. No, they use the real thing. And I thought that was very, very clever, actually, and made it a lot more true to life. So, very good. I was thinking from Chrissy's point of view, if she hasn't seen anything that I've talked about so far, this must be a damn boring episode for her. Sorry about that, Chrissy. It's only getting worse from here. All right, now this one came out, and it's on one of those things. On paper, it sounded like a good idea at the time, but the whole world was against it. It just didn't work. Now, as a movie, it's actually not bad, but the marketing was terrible. The name was terrible. The reviews were terrible. It was the wrong place at the wrong time. And of course, we're talking about good old John Carter. So John Carter from the Princess of Mars book, from Edgar Rice Burroughs, 150 billion years ago, right? Great idea at the time. The problem was that people know what Mars is like now. So in this movie, they're on Mars, and Mars has all got civilizations and human beings and all this sort of shit running around. Clearly, we know for a fact that there's none of that up there, so that kind of didn't help. The name didn't work for it. They didn't want to call it the Princess of Mars because they didn't want to scare off. And this is true. They didn't want boys not to see it, thinking, I'm not going to see girly movies, which is kind of stupid. But anyway, that was the attitude at the time. And they didn't want to call it John Carter of Mars because they thought, as this is the studios, thought that the name Mars didn't make movies sell, right? So they go, well, we can't have Princess because that scares off the boys. We can't have Mars because that scares off the girls, right? This is just what they thought. So let's call it John Carter. And of course, people get, what the effing hell is John Carter? And of course, all the ideas that the film suggested had already been used in all these other movies going back decades, right? So the concepts weren't new, and it was a big, expensive movie. Like the guy who made it was into animation movies. So he shoots the whole movie and then reshoots it all over again, which jacked up the budget. And it just died in the ass. It really did, even though it's not that bad a film. So Guy said it was an okay movie. It didn't dislike it. It takes a bit to sort of get your head around because in the universe, we call Mars Mars, but the people who live on Mars call it Barsoom, right? And all the planets in the solar system have a different name. So you got to kind of get your head around that. And you got aliens, I think it's the Tharks with 4 arms and all this sort of stuff. There were some really good concepts, but it had all been done before. That was the problem. And in the end, so Disney made some pretty bad decisions regarding John Carter, and it died in the ass. Right? It was about to be released. Disney, they were going to get Star Wars, so basically abandoned it. Well, yeah, and they thought it was going to be like awesome, but it wasn't to be. Now, as a movie, and I agree with Colin, I enjoyed it too. I didn't think it was that bad. But in the public's eye, it just died a death. So, yes, very, very cool. I own the 2005 version of Princess of Mars starring Trey. Yeah, good on you. So, I just missed that comment. And it's not, an adult movie parody. Got that. So that was it. So good old John Carter just wasn't to be, and came and it went, and Disney lost a lot of money on it. So, yes, if you haven't seen it, you probably never will. Greg said he enjoyed it. Yes, it's not bad. It's actually quite well made. It's quite well done. The visuals are good. You got to try and wrap your head around all the character names. There's a fair bit there because it's not just like the humans. They're not called humans. They're called something else, and the whole concept behind it. But yes, you need to sort of give it some breathing space if you can, but it won't be classed as a memorable movie by any stretch. It's come and gone and wait. And because they wanted to make sequels and then put Mars in the title in, and by then it was too late. All right, this one comes out. Got old Matt Damon doing his best. A classic example of what happens when you've got two different classes of the people, the rich people and the poor people. And of course, we're talking about Elysium. And of course, the idea of Elysium, and I kind of like this, right? It's almost like the space station from 2001: A Space Odyssey, where all the rich people get to live on the space station because Earth is, pretty much stuffed. And all the poor people live here, all the factory workers and whatever else. Now, it's a little bit of a hero's journey story. Okay, he's been infected with a disease. He's got to go up to the station to try and get himself fixed up. How do you do that? But I thought it was kind of groovy. And of course, when you get to the Elysium station, which is like absolute utopia, right? It's fantastic. It's like how, hang on, can't think of it. Like beautiful gardens and houses and parkways. It's like for all the good people, as it were. Yeah, no bogans allowed there. If that happened in real life, it would be spectacular. But of course, it was just for the elite. And I didn't mind Elysium. I thought it was quite good. Now, the guy who played Vicus from District 9 plays a bounty hunter in this, and I thought he was totally miscast. That didn't work for me at all. But that aside, it was actually quite enjoyable. So, very, very cool. People are making comments, but I'm not sure about what movie they're talking about. Same director as District 9. Yeah, I think you're right on that one too. I can't think of it. Neil Blomkamp or whatever his name is. So, yes. But listen, yeah, get a chance if you check it out. Jodie Foster plays a bad guy, bad girl in this. And it's quite groovy, but it does have the old happy ending at the end. But it does show you that, and Blade Runner is a little bit like this too, that if you screw up the environment bad enough, instead of trying to fix it, you just bugger off, go somewhere else. It's like, there's somewhere nice, let's just go there. The damage is done. And funnily enough, I think that's happening in one of the Asian countries where they said their whole city is polluted so badly, they're just going to build a new city just over there. And you go, well, that doesn't exactly fix the problem. It's just shifting them from one place to another. So anyway, there you go. Get a chance and check it out. Elysium. Very good. All right, we're up to 2014. How we gone so far? Now, Christy hasn't seen any of the movies so far, and chances are she won't have seen the next 6, but we'll see how we go. This one was the beginning of a trilogy, which I didn't know that when it first came out, and I'd be hard-pressed to find most people. Jodie Foster did this film. She always wanted to be killed off in the movie. Oh, well, there you go. So, yeah, she's had a pretty good run up till this point. So, yeah, absolutely fantastic. Yes, Elon Musk will solve our problems. Exactly right. Very, 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 very cool. So, yeah, the bottom line is make sure you got rich. If you're rich, you get all the benefits, right? In a lot of these disaster movies, it's always the wealthy people who get to escape and do other things. All right. So this one comes out, right? As I said, it's not very often you get a cast of just all kids, and it's not Lord of the Flies either. And it was a part of a trilogy. And of course, the funny thing about the trilogy is, unlike, say, Lord of the Rings and Hunger Games and all that, which they all sort of fit together, this one is so different to the next two, you could almost class it as a different film. And of course, we're talking about the Maze Runner. And now I really like this. I thought this was kind of cool, even though it didn't really explain the story a lot, right? You were a bit like the characters. They were stuck in this big grassy area called the Glade. There's a wall all around them. The Maze Runner are the dudes who run through the walls to try and work out where they are, which is the maze, but they can't be kept there after dark. The walls shut, aliens come out and hit them all, right? Doesn't end well, as you can see from the picture on the bottom right-hand corner. And you get to the end of the thing and they go, okay, they've escaped, right? And they've suddenly discovered, once they've escaped, that, there's something else outside of the world, right? We got that, right? But when you get to the next two movies, they're almost completely different films, right? But it's all part of the same trilogy. And of course, the last movie's got nothing to do with bloody mazes at all. But for those who enjoy this, it's kind of great because, as I said, it's all it's a child cast mainly, late teens, probably early 20s, but for the most part, all young, all male except for one female. And it's about how they survive in their environment. And of course, you get our hero. He wants to get out of where he is. It's called the Glade, the whole green bit that they live in. Wants to get out and escape. And of course, some people within the Glade want to just keep their society going because they're a happy bunch of dudes, effectively. And all their supplies get supplied to them by some unknown group. And of course, every time a person arrives at the Glade, once a month, they have memory problems. They don't remember anything about where they came from or who they are or whatever else. and it turns out they've all been handpicked to be there in the first place. So if it's one dude per month, you can argue that some of them have been up there for a few years. So so Maze Runner was good, not so the sequels. I liked the last one. I thought the last one was actually quite good. I can't think what it's called now. But it was so far removed from the whole maze thing. It was almost like, well, you didn't even need the maze name in the title. It was just a little bit too different. But yeah, you can, if you just watch the first movie and just leave it at that, it's fine. It's not a problem. Was it Maze Runner had your pulse up? Had me thinking 10 ways till Sunday? Yeah, well, that's right. Because, I mean, it was kind of freaky because the dudes run into the maze. And if they get caught there after dark, mate, they're in massive strife. And, of course, you've got the alien things running around, these big-ass spider things. And you go, what the hell's the deal with that? And the maze is huge. The thing is gigantic. And these dudes have got to run their way through the whole lot. And it's a bit of a thinking person's game. Show. Hunger Games you found boring. I loved Hunger Games. I thought it was a fantastic. I call it. It's even though there was 4 movies, so technically a trilogy, because 1 and 2 or one Mockingjay 1 and 2. But as a trilogy, I thought they were fantastic. Even though the story's familiar. Okay, dudes stuck in a place. They got to go and kill themselves until the last one survives. It was done in Battle Royale about 20 years ago. But I loved Hunger Games. I thought it was excellent. Kelvin said Maze Runner is one of the best of the young adult movies like Hunger Games. Yeah, I agree. So they both had their good and bad points. But yes, with Maze Runner, we learnt as the actors, as the characters learnt. We didn't know anything in advance. And I think that kind of really worked for us. So, but you could tell our hero was going to survive. It was a question of who was going to get knocked off along the way. And if you haven't seen it, just check it out. Maze Runner. It's one of those trilogies that most people have forgotten about. No one ever talks about, name some great trilogies in the past X amount of years. And you think Iron Man, and you're thinking, what do you call it? All the MCU stuff, Captain America, this, that, and whatever else, and Lord of the Rings and Hunger Games. Maze Runner just gets forgotten, but it's actually quite good. Very good. Took forever to get released as the main actor got badly hurt during filming. Okay, yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. And very, very good. Hunger Games had the very first female action hero. Did not, actually. Aliens would be one of the first ones. So Aliens was an action movie, and Sigourney Weaver playing Ripley was definitely the leader of that. So there you go. That's in my opinion. Anyway, I think most people would say, yep, absolutely, Ripley. Very, very cool. All right. So you enjoyed Hunger Games at the cinema, rewatching the Blu-ray, found them boring? Yeah, okay, fair enough. But no, I thought they were really good, even though the first 2 movies are vastly different to the last 2 movies because there's actually no real Hunger Games occurring, but in Mockingjay 1 and 2. It's interesting to see how there was this good quality world building. Very, very good. Good stuff. And yes, I'm just going to take a drink while I have a look at some comments. All right. Christy said a kid version of Big Brother versus Labyrinth. Yeah, exactly right. And once again, it's the corporate dudes who are running everything. But in the end, we learned there's a virus affecting the earth, and these guys are there to try and find a cure. And it's a bit of a convoluted story, Maze Runner. I kind of didn't entirely get it. All right. This one. Okay. Angela's referring to a running gag. Okay, cool. This one, I saw this and I thought, oh, mate, this is very, very groovy, really different. All right. Now you're going for the big, huge sets and the big action things and explosion. Let's go completely left field, right? Cast of 4 to a degree, right? Loved it. A real brain thinker. Ex Machina. How good was this? And the coolest thing with this is that was it Dom Hall Gleason and Oscar Isaacs are both in it. And of course, both of them appeared in The Force Awakens in the same movie, in the same year, right? Now, and they played vastly different characters. So Poe Dameron, right, who's a bit of a cool dude in Force Awakens, ends up being a bit of a crazy puppy in this movie. And was it General Hux from Force Awakens, who was this complete megalomaniac, in this movie was a complete whip, total wuss. And it was like, how are they able to do that? And it's like, when you look at the guys in the bottom right-hand corner, you'd never think, that's General Hux right there in charge of Star Killer Base. Not in a million years would you think that. I had to laugh when I saw that. Absolutely fantastic. And Ex Machina is outstanding. So the idea being that, I can't think of the guy's character's name, Poe Dameron's character is building an artificial person, right? And of course, I think this is coming back to the iRobot thing earlier on. It's almost like a step up from that. You build an artificial person that has complete sentience, okay? And it is so well done. And I heard from a visual effects point of view, instead of like green screening all these body parts over the actress, they just drew it all in. So she wore a special suit. They just drew over the top of it. Absolutely fantastic. A little bit different, a bit of a thinking person's sort of show. And yeah, I can't think. I don't know the characters' names, but it was really, really good. And of course, Poe Dameron's character, Poe Dameron, he's gone a bit nuts in the head because he's trying to get these things to work, and he's had a lot of failures along the way. And good old General Hux has come in and trying to rescue. I can't think of the girl's name. Oh, man, I'm forgetting everybody's name. Rescue her, and of course, in the end, she just buggers off and leaves him to die. What an absolute brilliant movie, but not everybody would have seen it. I don't think it's something. Excuse me, a little bit different and well worth checking out. So. Very, very good. We're talking about female superheroes now. Female Jennifer Lawrence is the first female hero, according to an interview she did. Well, it depends on who you talk. Well, whatever. Each their own. So, speaking of Jennifer Lawrence, she's coming up next. So, 2016. I had to look at 2016. What am I going to pick out of 2016? What? You would hope that he was nuts in the head and not another body part. Well, that's right. So, it's the old thing of like, if you got all the money and you got all the power and you got all the everything that you ever wanted in your life, you go a bit stir crazy because there's nothing else. There's no other challenges really, and I think that's roughly what they're sort of trying to say regarding Poe Dameron in the show. You know, the great genius, but it comes at a cost, and that is just your mental sanity. I love it. All right, so Jennifer Lawrence, we talked about her a moment ago. All right, so Passengers. I didn't mind this actually, although it's very funny. Apparently, it died a death in the eyes of the reviewers. And I kind of get it. And so the big ass generational ship, all the people are sleeping on it. They're going 120 years in the future down the track to go to a different planet. An asteroid hits the ship, and of course, Chris Pratt's character wakes up 90 years ahead of time, right? So he's got another 90 years to go. Clearly, he's not going to survive. And he stews and he's worrying about this and that, whatever else. And he wakes up, Jennifer's character, but she doesn't know that she's woken up because of him. There was a discussion later on. Some people suggested, even she suggested this, that it would have been better had her character woken up at the start of the story and not knowing what was going on. Whereas we, as the audience, get to know exactly what's going on. We get to see Chris's saga, trying to survive a year on his own, and then he hits the button and wakes her up. So look, I didn't mind it. I thought it was quite good. It's a little bit wussy to a large degree. It's on those romantic drama sort of things, and of course, it has a big action scene. Oh my God, the ship's going to blow up. I'm going to save the day. Yada yada yada. I can imagine a lot of people, especially Christy, saying no, didn't see it, but I thought it was all right. Yeah, nothing fantastic, but I thought, yeah, not for me to buy the DVD, watch it once, and go, all right, that's it, I'm done. So yeah, very, very cool. I should be referring to that. Saw this long and transfixed the screen credits rolled emotional bit. Well, it has a very nice ending. So in the end, they end up having to live on the ship. By the time the ship docks at the planet, they're already carked it, right? They're long gone, but they've left a legacy behind. Quite cool. Michael Sheen, who pops up all over the place as various characters, and he was in Tron Legacy, plays the butler. And of course, he's a robot butler, and he's the only person that good old Chris Pratt, his character, can talk to. So for a year, which is kind of cool. So love it. Oh, Anders joined the show. Good to see that. Thought it was fun, and I love Michael Sheen. They were just saying that actually. So his name was Arthur. Good old Arthur the butler. Awesome stuff. So of the things we've shown you so far, Passengers was good, but not great, not memorable, not fantastic, but yeah, very good. And it was a good ending when everyone wakes up and they see what's happened on the ship for the past year, which is kind of cool. All right, now, sometimes you can come up with a great idea. Sometimes it visually looks fantastic. And other times, and that's the case here, it looks awesome. And you go, you know what? It just didn't happen. And Daniel and I have discussed this. Valerian, a city of 1,000 planets. No, is it a city? Yeah, city of 1,000 planets, right? How many people have not seen this? Christie's bound to be putting her hand up going, yep, she's one of them. It was like an equivalent of Avatar to a degree. If you look at the top right-hand corner there, the picture, absolutely stunning. It was gorgeous to look at. It really, really was. But the story was terrible and the casting was shit, right? So your two leads who are in the bottom right-hand corner there, is like they could not have miscast this any worse. Now, it's kind of funny where you think you could look at some stories and you go, you know what? They could get anybody to play these characters, it'd still work. And in this, it just didn't work at all. It brought the thing undone. You'd be halfway through the movie going, who the hell put these guys in charge? It was terrible. And it really brought it undone. It was made by Luke Besson, the guy who made Fifth Element. And it was, the visuals were just completely ruined by such an ordinary story and unbelievably bad casting. And it's one of those things you can't ignore. It's in your face all the time, and you go, "Oh, guys, seriously?" So, yes, Jeff Rowe said, "Yeah, Luke Besson's rare fail as a director, and it was a shame because it had so much going for it." So, yes, visually stunning, and casting, as said, it was atrocious. It was so sad. It could have gone places like Fifth Element when it came out in the 90s was a real overnight sleeper hit. It was like, oh, we saw them go, oh, that is so cool. It is something cool to see something that's not necessarily Hollywood like. It goes like from Europe, in this case France, and Valerian was just like that, right? It was from France, and therefore you're going to see different things, and it just was. Disappointing. Now it's just been forgotten. It's just come and gone. No one remembers it. No one talks about it. When I was looking at the list, I go, "Oh yeah, I remember that when that came out," and just died in the ass. So unbelievable. She was good. Yeah, she wasn't too bad, but he was terrible. It was like, oh, dude, and it wasn't the actor's fault. It was just the wrong cast for him. So you could probably think of 100 different people to take that dude's position, and they all would have been far better than what we ended up with. So. Saw it, meandering story and wooden performances. Yeah, very sad, and unfortunately that does happen. So, yes, and I agree with what Ad said here. It started good and visual. Oh, I can imagine seeing that in 4K. It'd be just worth it just for the visuals alone. So, anyway, not to worry. So it came, it went, and we move on. All right, 2018. Now this is a streaming one. Didn't see this in the cinema. I saw this. Now a lot of people rated this really badly. Now Christy definitely won't have seen this. I saw it and I go, oh, that's kind of working for me. He's actually seen it on Blu-ray. This is Valerian. It would look good on Blu-ray, I've got to say. I like this one. Extinction. Now I'm going to give you some spoilers here because I can't not talk about it and give away spoilers. So it was an Netflix film, Extinction. I loved it because it's the beings, the dudes on the planet are being attacked by these pesky aliens, right? Badass aliens shooting the shit out of everything and destroying everything. It's like, mate, what's the freaking deal with that typical story, right? Like, but it turns out the humans aren't human after all. They're actually back to the robot thing again, like artificial intelligence, robots and shit, right? And the people attacking them are us, humans coming back to reclaim the planet. How good is that? So I was quite impressed. I thought that's an interesting twist. And there are all these clues that the humans aren't human. Like, for example, at the start of the show, there's a party going on, right, in an apartment building with all these people, but no one's drinking anything and no one's eating anything because as robots, they don't have to eat or drink, right? And you don't realize until afterwards. You go, oh yeah. And once we discover it's actually the humans coming down trying to get the Earth back because the robots took over and all the humans had to bugger off to Mars of all places. I wonder if they ran into John Carter while they're up there. And it's like 50 years later, they're coming back. We've come back to reclaim the planet. I loved it. I thought it was a great concept, and I didn't mind it at all. And of course, the thing with this particular story is you're working on the view. Whose side do you take? Do you take the side of the robots? I'm putting it in blunt terms, the robots, or the humans, right? Because in the show, the humans are being shown as the bad guys, right? But as it turns out, when the humans learn that the robots have actually built families and they're not like T-800s running around, they've actually got families and all this sort of business going on. What happens then? And it's an interesting twist on the psychological thing of saying, oh, the humans are the good guys, the aliens are the bad guys. But in this case, we're the attacking force trying to get our planet back from the robots. And of course, the robots don't know what the deal is, right? Because they go through memory wipes. So their past is completely wiped out. So they've got no idea of what happened in the past. That's bad English. But they're having sort of the odd memory kicking in from time to time. I loved it. I thought it was just such an interesting concept. It got reviewed badly, but I liked it a lot. And so there you go. Yes, here we go. You have it on mute. Oh yeah, so you don't want to spoiler alert. Well, sometimes I've got to spoil, otherwise I can't get it. Otherwise I'll be saying Extinction. Check it out. That's all I'll be saying. So very good. Definitely never heard of this one. Yeah, it was a Netflix movie, and I can't remember why I saw it, but I looked it up and go, oh, that's actually kind of cool. So it was meant to have a sequel. It's set up for a sequel. So the humans have come to Earth, and our robots are pissed off out of town to somewhere else. But I don't think they did a sequel to it. So. Guy said, how did Mars Attacks not on the list? Well, I told you there's a whole range of things that sort of came. Was Mars Attacks a 21st century movie or a 90s movie? Can someone tell me? I think it was made in the 90s, if I'm not mistaken. Very, very good. So, yes, very good. But the robots slaughtered the humans in the first place. That's right. And that's the reason why they go through all these memory wipes, because they don't want to be reminded of what it is that they did. So, yes, it was your suggestion. Oh, okay. Well, there, I think I can thank Adzi for it. Very cool. I do like it. And yeah, you are sort of torn. It's like watching those shows where the protagonists are not necessarily, well, the antagonists are not necessarily the bad guys because they represent us. So, and of course, if you lived on Mars with the humans, because, 50 years have passed, you'd be thinking those pesky friggin' robots, piss them all off. I want my friggin' Earth back. Check it out, 96. So, yes, that's the reason why we do not have Mars Attacks. Thank you, William, for that one. Come on, Thomas, get with the program, son. We're not talking about 90s movies here. Yes, and Daniel's confirmed the same thing. All right, this is another Netflix movie. This one came out. Someone said, oh, got to check this out. I saw it. Christy definitely won't have seen this if she hasn't seen all the others. This one was like slipped through the cracks for a lot of people. Made in Australia, right? It's Australian produced production. And, of course, it's I Am Mother. Did anybody see this out there? Absolutely freaking awesome. A robot that actually brings up a kid, right? And of course the kid grows up. It's 30-something years later, right? And they're stuck in this entire base. And as far as the kid is concerned, or the woman is concerned, the robot takes care of everything. And very clever with a good twist at the end. And the robot was produced, I think, by Weta Digital, although it's actually an actual suit. Very good. Very groovy. One of those scenarios where you say, how do you make a story with only one human and one robot for the most part? Very ingenious. Yes, he liked it as well. And of course, that's the reason why it's called I Am Mother, is because the girl only refers to the robot as mother, because as far as I'm concerned, it is. So there you go. William said he didn't see it. Anne said, seen it once and not sure if you watch it again. I'm in the same boat. I don't know if it has a repeat watching value, but in terms of doing something different, it was kind of cool. It was kind of different. It was good. It was enjoyable. I mean, I wouldn't class it as being at the top of the list of all the things to watch that we've seen so far, but in terms of just something different, and it's like a bit of a thinking person's movie, and it was very, very well done. I'm going to say it wasn't too bad at all. Now, 2020, last one, right? I thought, what came out in 2020 that clearly there's only one movie right now. We've seen 20 years worth of movies, and that doesn't even cover the ones I haven't even covered off, which is all quite a long list. I thought, mate, this one crapped on the whole lot. The ultimate movie of the 21st century. And of course, it's got to be the one that I'm in. Oh, goddamn. I couldn't help myself. I looked up 2020. I thought nothing came out bloody 2 years ago, right? Nothing I really cared about. I thought, what am I going to put in? Oh, Batman and me. So there. What do you reckon? Hey, now, if you were saying, oh, I haven't seen it, I'm not surprised. You can't see it anywhere in this country. It's only visible in overseas. And, yeah, haven't seen Christy definitely won't have seen this. Oh, dear. Have I seen it? Yeah, I have maybe once or twice. What can I say? So, love it. Yes, very, very cool. It was a good watch. Yes, good old Batman. Well, it's kind of a sci-fi movie, kind of a sorts. Yes, it is only available for streaming services in the US, as far as I'm aware. That's as far as it goes. So, Jeff Rowe saw it in the cinema. It's one and only screening in a cinema. Absolutely fantastic. Love it. I was confused by the plot. It's about a dude who collected a whole lot of shit, right? And he's still stuck with it. Love it. So there's got to be something released in 2020. Nothing compares with what I had. Actually, if you look at Wikipedia, science fiction movies released in 2020, it's a damn short list. So, yes, there you go. Love it. Good stuff. Do I run around the shop going, I'm Batman? Yeah, that's exactly right. Do you know there's somebody in Western Australia, because they've got 9 digits in their number plates, actually has I'm Batman without the apostrophe in their number plate? How good is that? Look at that. Complete Queensland has not seen any of those movies. Oh, Christy, you must be so bored of this particular episode. So there you go. I could have guaranteed you wouldn't have seen the last one, Batman and me, but there you go. Very, very good. Well, that gives you a fair bit to catch up on, Christy, if that sort of floats your boat, if that is your thing. So there you go. That's it. I'm actually done. And it's only 9:20, which is particularly cool. Even though Aaron's not around, I suppose I've got to do the usual thing. So for those of you who are watching this who haven't done so already, or for those who are suffered through this on replay, don't forget to check out the old Sci-Fi Zone socials on Twitter and Instagram and all that other stuffs. It's very good, especially to learn when Rip It Off the Card is returning. If Aaron ever gets his ass out of his sick bed and finally makes his way into a camera, maybe it'll be next week with a bit of luck. Speaking of the lad, don't forget Christmas is coming. So make sure you go to the store, Aaron's Collectibles, and good old Main Street, Blackburn. buy a stack of Christmas stuff. You know you want it. And if you happen to be there when I'm there, who knows, I might even be able to give you a special discount. 85% off everything sale. Love it, which is very, very cool. All right, that's it for me, unless somebody else wants to bring something up that I'm not aware of. Surprised you didn't mention Chappie. I never saw it, actually. There's a whole lot that I didn't see. I went through the list, and there was a few things I go, oh, there was some I was torn on. I got to a certain year and go, shit, there's like 4 movies. And I'm like, oh, they're all grouse. What do I do? So I deliberately stayed away from mainstream stuff, the MCUs and Star Wars and Star Trek and whatever, and things that I thought, well, okay, I've got something to say about this, whether it be good or bad. So I didn't want to make them all like, oh my God, because it's in the end, it's my opinion, right? And there are some things that I love that other people won't like. So I thought it would be just easy to just say, pick out the ones that I thought, well, at least I've got something to say. I was more concerned I'd come across a year and go, shit, I haven't seen anything in that year. What do I do? But I was kind of lucky, got away with it also. Very, very good. 50 cents for a Daggy action figure. Absolutely fantastic. What accessories come with the Daggy action figure? A talking mouth that never shuts up would probably be one of those things. All right. Jupiter Ascending. No, I never saw that. As I said, there's actually, when you look at the listing, it's a long list. There's a lot of stuff that's been produced over the last 20 years. A long list, actually, which is really good. There's a lot of good stuff that came out. There's a bit of rubbish as well. And there's plenty for people to dial into. And of course, what I wanted to do tonight is mention things that people had forgotten about. I go, oh, I never saw that. Oh, I forgot about that, which was particularly cool because I enjoyed that today. Considering I just made this up today because slack-ass Aaron said, nah, I'm sick. I can't make a cough, cough, cough. And I had to invent an entire show in the space of a few hours. There you go. Got to love it. All right, so I've been on for an hour and 20 minutes. Time for me to nick off. Hopefully you've enjoyed me crapping on. Oh, see, Total Recall. I really wanted to talk about Total Recall, but I thought, another movie took its place in the thing. Total Recall was a magnificent movie. That's the remake, all right, for those who never saw it. Vastly different to the Arnold Schwarzenegger version with Total Recall. Mars, no Mars this time. John Carter gets to live alone on Mars, but Total Recall, no Mars stuff at all. Half the Earth has all been decimated by viruses and polluted atmosphere, except for England and Australia, of all places. Oh, yeah, baby. And there's a tunnel that connects the two of them. Awesome movie. Excellent remake. It was fantastic. Very, very good. Good stuff. All right, so it is time for me to see. Some people have mentioned the DW word, which I'm deliberately not mentioning because that's swearing as far as I'm concerned. So very, very cool. I'm going to nick off. Hope you've enjoyed my solo action here. And I've got to press a button. What am I pressing? Oh, yeah, there we go. And hopefully you enjoyed it all. Next week, with a bit of luck, there'll be 2 shows on next week. So we'll be doing a review. Hopefully Aaron gets out of his sick bed and we're doing a review of 2022. And, of course, the last episode of Rip It Off the Card. And for those who are going to the dinner on Saturday night, you should all have the details by now. If you do not, scream out to Aaron's Collectibles. We'll get onto it straight away. All right, guys, leave you to a party. Hard rock on. We'll see you next week. Okay, remember, do as Daggies do, and stay nerdy. Okay, catch up. Bye-bye.